All right, welcome to this episode. Today is going to be a quick one, and I'm going to talk about imposter syndrome. But before I begin, I always like to share like little things about me that only kind of my clients get to know behind the scenes. And because I work with a lot of perfectionist high achievers who are really hard on themselves, they beat themselves up for like not doing things correctly, but they also sometimes procrastinate. I have a good one for you. This year is the first year I've had to do this, but I did, and I feel zero shame about it. We had to file an extension for our taxes because, yes, I am still learning how to like get all of my shit together and have it ready like ahead of time, like in November. So that is something I'm working on, but we're still dealing with our taxes. She's still waiting for me to get some paperwork over to her. So I'm saying this out loud to remind myself to get that done. And also just to let you know, if you ever make any of these mistakes, if you ever let yourself down, if you ever are messy, you could just not add more drama on top of it. You can just decide, okay, that was me. I did that. Um, we filed an extension. We're fine. Like, and I've just decided to have zero drama about it. Like, we'll get it whenever we get it. So that's what I wanted to start with. And today, I was coaching my client who went through my certification. So if you didn't know, I take a limited number of clients through my coaching certification. So I teach them how to become a life coach. I created my own certification based on my 10 years of coaching experience, on working with amazing coaches around the world and working with concepts like those who are in the life coach school, those who follow Tony Robbins. Like, I like to meld everything together. I also like using ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy. So that's how I based my foundation, and I have an intuitive life coach certification. So my client went through this, and he's now beginning to coach other people. He got a certification, and he's working with one client that turned into a paid client after he did his free coaching sessions. And I was coaching him on imposter syndrome. And it just made me think, those of you who watch the podcast, listen to the podcast, you actually wrote in and said, like, imposter syndrome is the number one thing that you wanted support with. So I'm going to do a lot more episodes, but let's just remember what it is. So, imposter syndrome is despite any of the evidence that you currently have about your knowledge, about your wisdom, about how good you are, how skilled you are, right? Like, you actually have evidence, right? Usually you have a college degree, usually you have some experience. But despite all that evidence, you feel like you're not good enough, not smart enough, you can't do it. Now, there is some studies that say that this was made up, and it was made up by men specifically for when women went into the workforce. And it tends to seem that women struggle with it more, but also men do as well, right? They just may not actually verbalize it. So, imposter syndrome is just you thinking you're not good enough, you're doing it wrong. And it stops us from taking the actions we want to take, living the life we want to live. So, remember, I've talked about this before on the podcast. Our thoughts, right, create our feelings create our actions create our results. So if you come to me and you tell me, I want to create a business, or I want to make money, or I want to reach this fitness goal, right, that's the result. And then how we choose to think and feel is going to dictate our actions that we take or we don't take. Now, what I always say is imposter syndrome just comes along with you deciding to have a big goal, period. Like, if it's coming up for you, great. That means that you picked something that's challenging. So it should be coming up for you. That's the first thing. But if we were looking at imposter syndrome in terms of how it makes you feel, you got to identify the thoughts that come along with it, right? So the thoughts are typically, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I can't do this. Who am I to do this thing? There are people that are better than me. And typically, all those thoughts lead to the feeling of insecurity, right? I lack confidence. I'm insecure. I feel uncertain. And what's interesting about uncertainty is that it's not always a bad thing. Now, some of you, a lot of my perfectionist clients, they love to be in control of everything. So when this happens for them, it's just a feeling that they do not like to feel. And so what will happen is their action, right? The action that they take is usually, I'm not going to take any action that's going to put me outside of my comfort zone because I do not like feeling insecure. I do not like feeling unsafe. Now, but here's the caveat, especially if you're wanting to make more money in your business. So let's say right now you have $1,000 coming in your business a month and you want to get to $10,000 per month. What I would present to you is that it's going to take you increasing your ability and your capacity to feel imposter syndrome, to feel insecure, to feel embarrassed, to feel small, to feel scared, and to feel courageous and to do the thing anyway. So if you want to 10x your revenue, 10x your income, 10x your results, you're going to have to 10x your emotional capacity. And most people are not talking like this. Most people are not realizing that that's the work. Of course, you're going to feel imposter syndrome. It is not a problem. Every time I go to speak on a stage, right now I'm getting ready to submit my book proposal to a big publisher. And my brain is like, you don't know what you're talking about. And also, I'm going to do it anyway because I've gotten really good at feeling insecure in my body, feeling uncertain. And then all I do is shift. I shift my thoughts slightly so that I can find the feeling of courage and commitment. So you can feel imposter syndrome and have all those thoughts in your brain, and they're going to be yapping away. For me, it comes to like my right side. Like I could hear my critical mind up into the right, kind of just like telling me other things. It tells me all the things while I'm doing a podcast. It tells me all the things while I am giving a presentation or a talk to a large group. And I just hear it and I'm like, okay, I just don't need to listen to you at all. And instead, what I do is I center myself in my body and I activate my heart to say, I'm doing this because it matters. Whatever goes in that book matters to someone. The words that I speak on this podcast matter. The words that I speak in front of a room full of people, even if there's 5 guys in the front row who look angry and they're not paying attention, it matters what I say and it's going to impact one person. So everything that I do that feels scary, I think about the one person it will impact. And if I can focus on one person and decide that one person is going to benefit, I will do it because I have courage and commitment to my mission. And my mission is to help people transform their mindset, their energy, their spirituality, so they can transform their life. Because that's what I did. That's why I want to write books about it. I'm like, I want to leave a legacy because I've read so many books, listened to so many podcasts that transformed my life. So I want you to take away today, very simply, imposter syndrome is not a problem. And then all you need to do in this moment is decide to think courageous thoughts on purpose. And I'll give you some of mine. What I'm doing matters. I can figure this out. I'm smart. I'm capable. There's always a way. No matter how I'm feeling in my body, I can breathe through this. This is not a problem. What if it all works out? What if a miracle happens today? What if I sign a client today? What if that $10,000 comes today? I am willing to feel this imposter syndrome in my body in order to create the life that I desire, in order to create these results. I love who I'm becoming in the process. All right, friends, so try that on for size. Join me next week for the podcast. And as always, if you want help with this stuff, let's do it. I offer a free consultation, completely free, 60 minutes. Head over to my website to book that now today. And let's talk about imposter syndrome in your life, in your business, in your workplace. And if you have a business, I have a mastermind that launches just about every other month. So you can also reach out to me about the mastermind. I will talk to you next week.